So this was basically a lucky timing eBay find. I'm pretty vigilant on a lot of platforms, and I had refreshed a sort by new search, and I caught this unit about a minute after it was posted. That's a Keysight 34465A. It was in parts and repair status for $65. So, yeah, I basically bought it and then read the listing because it was 65 bucks. And it said firmware update failed and the front buttons don't respond. So, I've seen a lot of different versions of the firmware update failures before. Generally, if the front buttons don't respond, it's indicative of hardware issues as well. And I've pretty much confirmed that. I'm gonna have to wait for this to time out. It takes a long time to do that. But I had already looked at all the errors previously. And it basically has the same list of errors as the shelf of shame 34470A that I have there. I mean, technically, up there behind a bunch of stuff is what I usually call my shelf of shame. Aborted projects, stuff that I started and didn't finish. But that one, I've legitimately intended to continue. I'm pretty sure I figured out what I needed to replace and I got parts for it. But I was also kind of nervous about it because it's a 70A, and it's a pretty valuable piece of equipment if functional. Well, now I have a 65A with the same symptoms, and I thought it might be done with the self-test by the time I rambled on for a bit, but I guess not. It really does take a long time to time out. That, or maybe I just have to reboot it and let it accumulate errors that way. But basically, it has the errors that indicate that it can't communicate with the measurement board. There's like error 821 and 615 and some other things. And I previously got some of these chips just against future need. I still have never run into the need to replace a spear chip. I actually got a couple of spear chips right here against future need. But what I traced down with the 70A over there was an LM3S chip. That one right there. When I was doing the diagnostics and trying to figure out which chip was likely the cause of the communications failure. Pardon, it's like 3 a.m. here. It was that LM3S IC. And I still have the 2 in stock that I bought and never put one in there. 2, because why buy 1 part when you can buy 2 parts? Because if you accomplish, repair A, then you may as well have a spare on hand for repair B, especially if you're going to pay the same for shipping. So I'm not going to finish this tonight. I'm about to go to bed, but I'm a lot less hesitant to pull that off, a 65A that I got for $65, than that 70A that cost me, I don't remember, maybe around $1,000? Yeah, probably something like that. So, yeah, I think that's what I'm going to be doing tomorrow. I'll warm that up, hot air it off, and swap it. See if I can run a firmware update. Bye. So I just restarted it rather than wait for the timeout for the full self-test attempt. So we have error 821, controller and measurement board model numbers do not match. They do match. That's not what's happening. It's because the controller board, that's the front panel, can't properly communicate with the measurement board, that it's not getting any valid response for what the measurement board model number is, and that's why it says they don't match. In my logical deduction, anyway. A ton of 320 slave processor communications error, command return error status, communications restart failed, a lot of repetition of that. So the slave processor is the LM3S, I believe, if I'm remembering my old diagnostics correctly. So it tries to restart a bunch of times. That's part of the long timeout process. Command return error status, communication restart failed, etc. Tons of those. 615, self-test failed, measurement processor not responding. Again, that's the LM3S chip, I believe. I won't know for sure until like tomorrow when I actually go to swap it. And then I believe there's some more. No? That's all of them? Okay. Yeah. So there's the, what was it? 829 at the top? The 615 and a ton of the error 320s. There's with the 2 different versions of the 320. The slave processor communications error, command returned error status, and slave processor communications error, communications restart failed. Okay, yeah, 821. So if you have this kind of thing, if you let it boot, there's a lot of things you can try to press that will result in a total freeze state. So what we see right here, there's no floating digits because it's not getting any information from the measurement board. So if I went to press like DC volts or AC volts or whatever, it would freeze. If I think do anything with any of these down here, it'll, freeze more. But you can go to Shift, Utility, and you can get these. So you have Test Admin. You can try your firmware update. In this case, because it's a hardware issue, failing to communicate with the slave processor or through the slave processor, that won't really work. You can update the firmware on the front panel. That will work, but it won't update the firmware in the measurement board. That or, yeah, I think that's how it works. You can go to the self-test. It'll time out if you do the full test. The quick test might not. You can go through, all of these options. Floof. Why are you such a bad kitty? You know you're not supposed to be up there. Psst, psst, psst. Come on. You got yourself into that. You can, get yourself out. You're so pretty. You're such a pretty cat. So let's see, what else is useful can you access here? Oh yeah, and there was also a message about the button battery in the front getting disconnected. I might have done that during cleaning, or I might have briefly shorted it during cleaning. Yeah, it still has okay voltage. It's like 2.9 volts. I'm curious if I change this, if it'll save it. Ah, much better. So yeah, you can get through all the controls and admin stuff. I'm gonna go ahead and press done. Just for shits and giggles, I'm gonna try doing the stuff that I would normally freeze it, because I'm curious. After it boots, how this kind of failure happens is it'll take a long time to boot. You get 2 beeps during boot or at the end of boot, and then it will come up with blank and error up here. And if you press any of the normal controls, then it'll hard freeze. But if you just sit and wait, or you can also go help or shift utility, that will respond. And if you wait longer, then you get another 2 beeps. So let me try this. Yeah, okay. So I tried pressing these. That was probably trying to interact with the measurement board, and then it froze. If you wait long enough, it might time out in the failure to communicate with the measurement board, and then unfreeze again. But, So, there... Bad kitty. There's a comparison that I've thought of for this 65A. I have here a known good 34461A. It's Agilent era. I believe this is the one that I swapped the screen on. It had just a white screen of death, but it turned out not to be a spear issue. It was literally just the screen had burned out. So, there are 2 indicator LEDs on the main board, the top side. There's From the camera's perspective, there's a bottom one and a top one. This top one is for FPGA, and the bottom one is microcontroller, or UC labeled. So what I want to do is I'll turn them both on at the same time, and I want to watch for those two lights, because I remember I didn't like watch during the entire boot cycle, but I remember this one, the malfunctioning one, showed green for the FPGA. So let's go ahead and do this. Okay. Well, that's a pretty clear difference so far. The known good 61A in the foreground has a steady blink on the microcontroller LED, and then it goes from blinking to solid around the time it finishes its boot cycle. And the 65A, the one that is known problematic, has no activity thus far from the microcontroller LED. I'm going to let it finish its timeouts and actually go through its boot. I want to see if there's any activity or any change until I get those beeps that it's finished trying to boot. Okay, it's booted to the point where it says firmware update failed, and it gives the 2.17, which is the version I tried to install. As with any of these, 2.17 is the first package you give a shot at installing. It previously, when it arrived in my hands, had a failed firmware update message of 2.08. So on the backside, the microcontroller is an LM3S. It's a Texas Instruments something Inferno chip. It was discontinued because of a flash memory corruption issue. I believe it was affecting 0.3% of chips. It doesn't say what the time frame for that percentage of failure rate is, but they discontinued the chip and offered a unrevocable lifetime buyback for every single chip. So yeah, I still haven't heard any error beeps from the 65A. That can take a bit. One second. Oh, yeah. I disabled the beep. Okay. The last time I had it open, I was getting tired of the keys beeping, so I turned it off. I'm going to quick check and see if it saved the date that I put in, because it's been unplugged overnight, and I'm curious to see if it saved that. Yeah. Yeah, so the lack of beep was just that it saved my settings. Okay. So I would call that further confirmation that it is a microcontroller failure. I think I'm going to go ahead and just try to swap it and see what happens. Okay, so I did some pre-checks on this. Basically, I tested voltage inputs on the chip, and I forget if I showed it on camera. I've looked at it with the thermal camera while it booted. I've confirmed it does not produce a heat spot under thermal. I've confirmed that the voltage in lines are feeding in voltage. Now, it's possible for there to be something else causing this. Like, there's a pin for wake that receives command by TTL. So it is technically possible that for some reason it might not be receiving that command, or the command might not be getting generated. But given that we already know this is EOL'd for failure, yeah, I'm going to say 98+%, it's the chip. So what I've done to prep this is under magnification, I very carefully surrounded it with Kapton tape to protect all of the tiny surface mount components that are very, very close to the pins from the heat, and to try to keep some of the flux off it. And then on the other side, around where this is, I've likewise taken, that's just green PET tape. It's also polyamide, so it's very similar to Kapton. And that's just over the components that are on the reverse side, just as a safety precaution, so that if for some reason solder on the other side does melt, I don't have components like fall away. They're secured in place so they don't go missing. And that's just a good prep thing to do as a favor to your future self, to prevent things from going wrong, or if they do, to lessen the impact of such. I'm going to stop this video, and then I'm going to get ready with flux and get everything else set, and then we'll do some hot oil rework to get that chip removed. Okay, we have some stuff prepped. For this, strangely, actual soldering rework doesn't come up as much as I would think it would. This will be my first time trying this Kingbo flux. From what I've heard from NanoFix, he's a Canadian YouTuber, does similar stuff to what I do, but focus on like Switch consoles and such. Well, I'll show you. This apparently has pretty good reviews in terms of staying in place, but I only have a few of these. It's kind of expensive. I have 10 of these, and I still want to try it, because I haven't tried it yet. Okay. Going to start out with 250 Celsius and setting 70 on the quick for preheating. Up to 375. And air setting 50. I saw smoke coming from the underside of the board. I needed to check. The caption tape I tried to put around did not stick at all, so that's just not working. I'm probably just going to take it off. Okay, I don't think I had any issues of other components coming off. It looks like we have a clean removal. So next up is getting the solder cleaned, or the old solder cleaned off, apply fresh solder, and then put on the new chip. Actually, I don't want that on yet. Actually, sure. Yeah, that doesn't work. Okay. Next up, now we go solder. Okay, now we go to some cleaning and inspection of the pads to make sure they're not damaged. Okay, that was not good enough, so we're going to do another pass with some copper wick before going to reapplication. That, or we might do the add solder method in order to remove solder method, where you mix in fresh solder and then you wick it away. that wick was sticking a lot. I'm going to try switching over to this MG Chemicals Super Wick. Okay, I'm gonna say they're clean enough for solder reapplication. So I'm going to clean the board, reapply flux. I'm basically going to check and see is there any pad that's sticking. Like last time I tried to clean it, there was enough solder to form little ridges to grab onto my swabs. So I'll be checking for that. One of my cats was reaching her paw underneath the door to try to get at the little doorstop spring and sproing it. Alright, next up, I'm going to give it a pass with my microscope. I'm basically looking for fibers left from the Q-tips. I want to make sure I remove those. Okay, so there were some fibers. I just grabbed them with that swab and they seem to come away pretty well. I'm going to use hot air at a distance to dry off the alcohol. And yeah, then I'll apply some fresh solder to get those pads wetted again in preparation for putting the new chip on. And that was just 160 air, or 160 degrees C. That's the setting I generally use to help me remove labels and such, so it wouldn't be enough to like melt solder. Just drying. Okay, fresh solder applied to the pads. I'm going to give this a clean again. Then inspect once I have the flux cleaned off. Let's use a El Cheapo Q-tip that I don't have to special order for the bulk cleaning. Oh, sorry for the focus, I just fixed that. Okay, so there's something I have to correct. There's a solder blob in the center, and we need that removed. So I'm going to quick wick that off. I'm going to stop recording for a sec. I need to check some of the documentation pictures I took. Okay, I have the new chip set in place on top of the pads and with some fresh flux, carefully aligned. And now we will see about getting it resoldered on, clean the board thoroughly, and then see what happens when we try to turn it on. Well, I mean, the ideal result is we still get an error, we need to update firmware, and then maybe it'll work. We'll see. to get it to align to the pins just right. Kind of a pain. Okay, we have alignment. Now I'm going to do some touch-up along the edges to add a bit of solder. So of course I've bridged multiple pins. As one does. try a smaller tip. Okay. Unlock the focus. So I just turned this off. I'm going with the 115. That was the 245. That was just too big for this job, for how small that package is. So I'm going to go with this. And I have here sorry, it's not focusing. A tiny little knife tip. Sorry, I'll need to remember to damp that part of the sound. I forgot to move that while the... Yeah, it'll be loud. Sorry. skip is the run for this, or run for this job. I'm gonna pause. Okay, I missed recording some of it. I thought I had tapped record, and I guess I just, hit the wrong part of the screen. But basically, the part that was missed was just more soldering, soldering touch-up, and I didn't think the cleaning needed to really be documented. It was just going over with pure ethanol, or pure, 99.9% dry anhydrous alcohol. A lot. With clean room swabs and Kintep wipes, and this for the final touch-ups. It's the Relife extremely dense, ultra fine bristle. It's basically a toothbrush, but very dense and very fine, soft bristles. That was for the final touch-up to go over the board. I have the shields back on. I have things assembled. Oh, I do need to go over and triple check the solder work on the microscope. I haven't done that yet, so let's do that now. Okay, we have a couple spots that I need to get an angle view on, so I'm going to move the... Oh, hold on. I thought I was pressing pause. Apparently I just pressed stop. Alright, I need to get some angle views into the pitch in between the individual solder legs, or the leads on that chip, because it looks like there's something underneath. It might just be flux residue. I need to make sure that it isn't solder, because obviously I can't turn it on if some of the pins are bridged. So there's definitely flux residue gunked up in there. I'm not overly worried about that. I just want to make sure that there's no solder. And there was one shiny bit with the light. I'm going to try adjusting the polarization and see if I can discern if it's like a reflective chunk of flux or if it's solder. Okay, I have found one bit of solder that's kind of wandered over near another leg, close enough that I'd be worried about signal interaction. It's not touching, but I'm going to clean that up with the titanium tweezers. Okay, I have possible solder bridging on 3 pins, basically underneath and behind the pins. I'm going to pick this back up and look at it at an angle, now that the polarization is adjusted to get rid of that shine. And if that is what I'm looking at, I'll do the same thing. Okay, yep, there is some solder bridging. I have a group of 3 pins, and near the edge I have a group of 2 pins, so I'm going to get that separated out. No, that's too big. And I just bent my tweezers. I think maybe I need to put in some hot air and try to get it to reflow. I'm gonna try that. that worked. It's now, it flowed out and it wicked in between two of the leads, but it's no longer behind them. Okay, I was able to reflow it and just touch the copper braid to it, and it wicked right out of the bridge that it was in. We have a little bit behind some leads, not bridging anything, but now that I know the hot air works to just wick it back into position, I'm going to do that. And if it bridges something, then I can touch it, or touch it up with the wick. Okay, I think we're good. I'm going to do some re-cleaning for a bit. Because we've moved flux around. There's clearly more flux under there. Right now I'm just using a thermal camera to see how far it's cooled down. Okay, it was at like 60. I've got it down to 40C. I just didn't want to introduce like thermal shock after reflowing it when I put the alcohol on it, because it would flash evaporate and introduce rapid temperature change. All right, I'm going to do one more angled check around the pins, just to be sure. Then I'll flip it over, look at the other side of the board, because I flowed a lot of alcohol on it, so I want to see if anything's loose there, or any, loose alcohol. Okay. Well, let's see if that did anything useful, or if I killed it. You know, you can sense the confidence oozing from me in that statement, can't you? All right, let's take a look. Yeah, I don't have any light for the micro. So I'm anticipating we're going to get the same errors. What I will give a shot at is to reinstall the firmware. Yep, that's as expected. I think I need to turn the beeper back on so I can tell when it's done. System setup, user settings, sounds. Controller and measurement board model do not match. Okay. So basically the same errors. Interesting. Back. I'm now leaning towards thinking that these set of errors don't mean bad hardware. They mean the information on that microcontroller is corrupted and it's not responding because the firmware telling it how to respond, when to respond, got garbled. So then the question is, how do we access and read and write from that microcontroller? Because I have another 65A, I have multiple 61As. And I don't think, as long as the microcontroller is the same one, I don't think there will be a difference between 61, 65, 70 for the communications slave controller or slave processor, I think. There will probably be an area that stores, like, the serial number, because it, says, or the model number, I guess, of the board. Huh. So that chip right there is potentially, still good. Well, in terms of hardware. Yeah. How the F do I get the data off of one of those? Well, more research and probably asking people on EEV blog then. I'm going to call that here for now. Symptoms have not changed. Yeah. But as far as I know, this is something that has not been fixed yet. And this is something that, well, I now have 2 units that have this. And both of them, from what I've been told, because I inquired from the people who sold them, both of them occurred during a firmware update. The 70A, I was told they were updating firmware and they lost power. And this one, I was told that they were having like drift issues with it, and they were talking with Keysight support, and Keysight support was talking them through doing a firmware update over the network. And then they had firmware update failed. So I'm guessing interrupted or otherwise garbled firmware update. Yeah. Just because it would be stupid not to try it. I'll try redoing the firmware. I don't think that will fix anything. But, yeah. I'm pretty sure this won't work, but it would be stupid not to at least try, because it's a very simple thing to try. But I think it's going to be a matter of figuring out how do I write firmware onto that slave processor, the LM3S chip. Because I'm now like 80%, 80+% confident that that is the reason it's not responding properly, not communicating, because basically the base level OS on that chip, base level firmware for, how to respond properly as that chip. Actually, I replaced the chip. It might be something custom loaded by Keysight to like tell it how to respond. So this will time out, almost certainly. I'm still seeing no light on the microcontroller green LED. Yep. Same symptoms. Okay, so it's not done timing out the tests. So you have to wait a little bit more. And now that I've re-enabled the beeper, we should hear in a little bit a couple more beeps. Or I actually might not have to wait that long. Let's okay, so their shift didn't respond, there was no beep. So it's in the middle of a wait for timeout process, I believe. And once that happens, yeah, it will recognize. Yep, there's that lawn beep. So help. View instrument errors. Controller measurement or board model numbers do not match. Slave processor communication error. Command returned error status, and communications restart failed. So all the same stuff. Self-test failed. Measurement processor not responding. Yeah. Okay. I'm going to leave it there for now.